French President Emmanuel Macron works to rebuild France's global image, particularly amid rising tensions and waning influence in parts of Africa. A viral video of his wife appearing to shove him during a state visit to Vietnam has surfaced on the internet. And this adds fuel to a growing debate. Is Macron's leadership slipping not just politically but symbolically? While he brushed off the moment as playful, critics suggest the incident mirrors the challenges he faced on global stage, where France's authority is being questioned, from Sahel rebellions to shifting alliances in Southeast Asia. Well, these and many more will be detailed in today's Flash News. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Tabitha Arko. Let's begin. As French President Emmanuel Macron stepped off a presidential plane in Vietnam on Sunday night, a surprising moment quickly overshadowed the diplomatic welcome. Cameras captured what appeared to be a brief face-level situation in Vietnam. And while on this situation, his wife, Brigitte Macron, gave him a face shift, prompting the president to momentarily recoil before regaining composure and waving to waiting media. Now, the video, which is now viral, has sparked global conversation, amusing to some, controversial to others. Let's watch. Right there, the world watches. However, Macron downplayed the incident, telling reporters in Hanoi it was a joke between him and his wife. The timing and symbolism of the moment have not gone unnoticed. For many observers, it's not just about a fleeting personal interaction. Instead, it fits into a wider narrative of a leader grappling with political pressure, faltering diplomacy, and eroding influence, particularly in regions where France once held firm ground. Macron's visit to Vietnam is the first by a French president in nearly a decade, part of a strategic effort to strengthen ties with Southeast Asia as France recalibrates its global alliances. Now, Vietnam, a former French colony with an export-driven economy, is navigating its own delicate trade relations with the United States and Europe. Macron's trip includes signing multiple economic and defense agreements, reflecting Paris' ambition to remain a relevant player in Asia's shifting power dynamics. But while Macron courts partnerships in the East, the ground continues to shift under his feet in the West, especially in West Africa. Once the centerpiece of France's post-colonial influence, Francophone West Africa is now pushing back. Military juntas in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have not only severed military ties with France, but have expelled French troops, accusing Paris of neo-colonial interference and failed security strategies. Also, anti-French protests have grown louder, and many countries are now seeking new partnerships with Russia, China, and regional blocs. Emmanuel Macron, once hailed for his fresh and pragmatic approach to foreign policy, now faces a credibility crisis in Africa. His earlier calls for a new relationship with the continent based on equality and mutual respect are increasingly viewed with skepticism, especially by a younger generation of Africans demanding real change rather than rhetorical overtures. Now, in this light, the seemingly harmless push by Brigitte Macron is being read by some critics as symbolic, a visual representation of a president losing grip, not just with his wife in a brief moment, but with France's place in a world that is rapidly realigning. Now, how much control does President Macron still have over France's global image? And is the soft shove in Vietnam a subtle metaphor for the stronger political pushback he's receiving from West Africa? As Macron navigates trade deals in Vietnam and seeks to expand French influence in Asia, questions remain about the cost of diminishing influence in Africa. Can France reset its relationship with its former colonies? Or is this the beginning of a long-term geopolitical divorce? As Africa colonies have taken a defiant stance, they are realigning with other world powers like Russia and China, and they have had enough of France's dominance and influence. And as the Sahel region seems to pioneer this move, other African nations are positioning. Well, taking over an African scene in a new development, Joseph Kabila returns amid security tensions. After over a year in self-imposed political exile, former Democratic Republic of Congo's President Joseph Kabila has returned to the country, sparking widespread debate and speculation about the future of Congolese politics. Landing in Goma, the capital of North Kivu province, a region deeply scarred by insecurity and armed conflict, Kabila's homecoming was confirmed by the M23 rebel group. In a statement, M23 spokesperson Lawrence Kanyuka welcomed the former leader to liberated areas under their control. But what does it signify when a former president is welcomed by a rebel movement? The M23 rebels. Is this a symbol of reconciliation or a sign of deepening political alliances that challenge national authority? Kabila's return follows a rare public address released via YouTube, in which he openly criticized President Felix Tshisekedi's administration and announced his intent to travel to the volatile East. His reappearance comes at a time of heightened insecurity, where accusations of government failures and rebel advances dominate national discourse. Now, could Kabila be positioning himself as a savior amid the chaos, or as a strategist exploiting national fractures for political gain? Reactions on the ground in Goma have been mixed. While some locals express hope that the former president's presence might rekindle peace efforts, others remain skeptical, recalling the corruption scandals, human rights concerns, and prolonged conflicts that characterize much of his 18-year rule. Now, can a leader with such a controversial legacy truly be seen as a force of peace? Independent political analyst, also Hubert Massimeko, described Kabila's return as a calculated political counterattack, remarking that he remains an unfathomable and impenetrable figure in the country's political fabric. Further complicating matters, Kabila's return comes shortly after the Congolese Senate lifted his parliamentary immunity, opening the door for prosecution. Now, the military high court has leveled serious charges against him, including insurrection, treason, and complicity in war crimes and crimes against humanity. And this poses a question: is Kabila's re-entry into the national spotlight an act of defiance, desperation, or political genius? And perhaps more urgently, what does his presence mean for an already fragile democracy teetering under the weight of rebellion and mistrust? Well, as the nation watches closely, one question looms above all: will Kabila's return bring resolution or reignite deeper divisions in a nation still struggling to heal? Well, as tensions escalate in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and this may just be a tool in the hands of those who apparently think it could be controlled. Still on, moving on. In Kenya, Kenya endorses Morocco's Western Sahara Autonomy Plan in landmark diplomatic shift. Kenya has formally endorsed Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara, describing it as the only credible and realistic solution to the decades-long territorial dispute. This move aligns Kenya with a growing number of African, Arab, and Western nations backing Rabat's claim to the disputed region. The Western Sahara conflict, which has remained unresolved since Spain withdrew from the territory in 1975, pits Morocco claiming sovereignty over the region against the Algeria-backed Polisario Front, which advocates for an independent Sahrawi state. Now, what does Kenya stand to gain, strategically or economically, by aligning with Morocco on such a contentious issue? Following high-level diplomatic talks in Rabat, both countries issued a joint statement reaffirming their commitment to deeper cooperation. Kenya emphasized its recognition of Morocco's proposal as the only credible, serious, and realistic solution to the conflict, and as the sole sustainable approach for lasting peace. Now, in a symbolic gesture marking the 60th anniversary of diplomatic ties, Kenya also inaugurated a new embassy in Rabat on the same day. Could this move, with key African economies like Kenya endorsing Morocco's position, reflect a broader trend of African nations prioritizing strategic alliances over long-held positions of neutrality on Western Sahara? The partnership also includes immediate acceleration of fertilizer exports from Morocco, one of the world's top producers, to Kenya, as both countries look to expand collaboration in renewable energy, tourism, fisheries, cultural exchange, and security. Moroccan Foreign Minister Nassar Bourita described Kenya's support for what he called Morocco's national cause as a move that injects renewed energy into bilateral relations. Also, Kenyan Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Minister Musalia Mudavadi stated on his X account that Kenya seeks to expand its export portfolio, particularly tea, coffee, and fresh produce, to Morocco in a bid to balance trade between the two countries. Additionally, Kenya endorsed a Moroccan initiative aimed at granting landlocked Sahel states, including Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, access to international trade via Atlantic ports in Morocco. Does this growing network of African cooperation through Moroccan trade corridors signal a shift in regional power dynamics? And if so, what does that mean for Algerians' influence in North and West Africa? Well, bringing you over to the conclusion of this report, Kenya's endorsement of Morocco's autonomy plan marks a noble shift in Africa's diplomatic landscape on the Western Sahara issue. It remains to be seen how this stance will shape Kenya's broader foreign relations, particularly with nations that oppose Moroccan sovereignty over the territory. Well, until next time, this is where I'll be drawing the curtain on today's Flash News. Remember, we're bringing you recent happenings on Undaunted from the home front at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. Until then, do have a pleasant day and stay safe.